Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's watch party for In Search of Tomorrow. As always, I'm Andrew, and joined today by two others who share this secret. We have Dom. Say hello, Dom.
Hello, Dom.
And our friend, Oliver Harper.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Okay, well, welcome, Oliver. Thank you for joining us today for Masters of the Universe. I know this is an all-time favourite of yours. So you've got the poster in the background, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Ollie, first off, tell us, why do you love this film?
Well, it contains probably Frank Langella's best performance, as Skeletor. I think one of the greatest villains of cinema. Everyone always, associates maybe Darth Vader probably as one of the greatest villains, but, Frank Langella just steals every scene he's in, despite wearing a sort of somewhat crude sort of makeup prosthetic throughout. His performance shines through it, and also it's got a wonderful score by Bill Conti, which is basically a mishmash of kind of Superman and Star Wars mixed together, and some cool visual effects. And Dolph Lundgren isn't too bad, despite some unintentionally funny grunting he makes throughout the film, it starts off straight away with some great grunts. And it's kind of I think a lot of people were He-Man fans back in the 80s were somewhat disappointed by it because of its kind of, not much from the cartoon is in it, and they, don't stay in Eternia for too long, and they disappear to Earth for budget reasons, to spend the majority of their time, and they focus too much on Courtney Cox and her boyfriend, and I've forgotten his name now.
Robert Duncan McNeil.
Yeah, from Star Trek or something, and
that's right.
But as a kid, I loved it. I had the sticker album, and which I still got. It's a bit ratty though. But if I was a bit older, I probably would have been a bit miffed with a lot of the changes. But as a 6-year-old, when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, this is the coolest thing ever." So I still love it. So there you go.
That's fantastic. So everybody, today's sync point will just basically be where the film starts, just as the Canon logo fades in. So while everyone's getting ready for that, let's just do our usual roll call and say hello to everyone who's joining us, who's in our chats at the moment. We can see Stephen Patterson, the Geek Father, Immortal Rimus, and Cute Cult joining us over on the YouTube chat. And in our Discord, the gang joining us today, I can see Mad Matt 42, Icy Matty, Sharon, Lizardman, Leanne, Brainwire, Alex, Omzi, Chaos Fear, Bikies, and a few others joining us. So, as our guest, Oliver, would you please do our countdown from 5?
Okay. Sorry to clear my throat there.
That's okay.
So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play.
Thank you. And here we go. The Canon logo, the seal of quality.
Canon logo.
Oh, definitely. I love the
warms my heart.
Canon logo. It's so good.
Yes.
Nice synthy sound.
I was just telling you guys before we started this, I was quite fortunate in that I saw this on Boxing Day on its UK release in a Canon cinema, which is quite kind of...
Yeah, because you're an old man.
I am. I'm a very old man. Thank you. Saw it with my sister, and I think we were about the only people in there, which...
No, God, that's a lie. God, it should have been packed.
It was very few people.
I love this little intro because it sort of condenses everything to sort of set up the story. Because most times in most films, I often have like loads of text scrolling up.
Yeah.
There's a simple voiceover, lays out the story with a great matte painting, and it sort of kicks into, pretty much Superman-inspired kind of title sequence, and the music itself is very much Superman. Because a lot of my friends, when they were younger, I'd say to them, "Hey, look, how does the theme tune go to Masters of the Universe, the movie?" And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they start humming it, and they go, "No, that's Superman." And
that's Superman.
Well, we can see the logo for the movie is actually the one off the toy line, and that's about the closest thing to the toy line from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the sort of production of this film and sort of the concepts of it all, with sort of William Stout had sort of designed quite a lot of the how it's going to look visually, and if you look at those kind of designs, it's really interesting. Where you got like Grayskull is kind of like icy fortress, And no, it wasn't. I think it might be Snake Mountain, actually. Sorry, but it's like when you look at those things, you think, wow, this if turn that into a film, it would be incredible. But obviously, the budget restraints kind of sort of, you lose a lot in that sort of process. But I think the intent behind it all was all there, but it's just like didn't really have the mind to sort of put it on screen. But there's always there's always a sort of rumor about this film that half of Superman 4's budget was to pay for this, which is I don't think is true because Canon Films had so many films in production in 86 to 87. So you had like 30 plus movies, and everything was kind of all the money was kind of spread across these productions. And also there were pre-selling films were just based on a concept poster, and they'd take that funds and basically put it into something else. So the movie they'd maybe promised never turned up. In the case of He-Man, Mattel had paid for a lot of it. So Canon like put in some money and said, okay, you got to pay for the rest. And I'm like, what? Because they just bought the license off them. So Mattel had basically funneled loads of money into this to make it a success, because the toy line, by the time this film was halfway into production, had sank. I think, Andrew, what do you think the theory was on that? I think it's down to because a lot of kids couldn't get the original toy line of He-Man and the new ones are out and no one was interested in? Or do you think kids had moved on to... Was Turtles around this time, or was it maybe Transformers had really shifted things?
Transformers and Mask were the big thing. This came out a bit late for He-Man from a UK child perspective. Especially because He-Man as a cartoon had surprisingly few series. It was only the two series it had, and then She-Ra, which all kind of got played in this one kind of weird amalgamated block every weeknight. I think in total it's only about 130, maybe 140 episodes across the three series, really. Which isn't that much when you're considering 5 episodes a week. So the problem is as well is the cycle of the seasons burns themselves on in continual loop. Yes. It burns the cartoon out quicker because everyone does. Oh, I've seen this one before. I don't want to watch it. Which
sure.
Sweats the property a bit more.
This is a crossover with He-Man and She-Ra, and that sort of also kind of played a sort of contributed to the sort of downfall of He-Man and his sort of popularity, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the film would have been much more successful had it come out sooner, but I don't think the green light for the film would have happened because I don't think it would have gained the popularity to make the film.
It was quite daring. I mean, at the time, nowadays we can all expect to see perhaps a toy line be turned into a movie, more so with a video game. But at the time, it was extremely daring and risky move. So I always applaud Canon for their sort of, attitude at the time of doing this, because they were trying to buy everything to sort of try and play with the big hitters, play against like Warner Brothers and Fox and Universal. So that was their sort of easy way in to think to sort of, the big budget game, and that was with Superman 4, and it sort of, fell on its arse, and He-Man was the next thing. They were like, because in the Canon documentary Electric Boogaloo, there's William Stout says, they can taste the money, they're going to make from this.
Oh, that's a wonderful documentary. If anyone hasn't seen it.
Canon, the Electric Boogaloo, the documentary is fantastic. But Oliver, you were saying about the design of a lot of the stuff in this film is fantastic. It is. I think Skeletor's design in this is the best you could make Skeletor in live action at the time. But after the film came out, didn't Mattel try and do another line of He-Man toys, and they couldn't use Dolph Lundgren He-Man or Frank Langella Skeletor because those designs belonged to the designer of the film and not to Mattel. Mattel figured they had the rights, but they didn't. So they were unable to release a He-Man and a Skeletor in the next line of He-Man figures.
Yeah, because it's great. Obviously, moment coming up here. Dolph do some great grunting. Just
to chip in for a moment.
Like Stallone,
we're seeing a common...
Dominic, you're right. I mean, I didn't realise. Obviously, if you think about it, they probably couldn't get the likeness rights for Dolph and Langella, so they obviously did release Blade, Gwildor. What was the lizard one called again?
Karg.
Karg. Karg was the big bouffant kind of character, hair, and the lizard one was it Sauron?
Sauron.
Yeah. So they made like 3. I don't think they made Karg. Well, maybe they did. I can't. Because I got when they re-released them, they did a new line, didn't they? By Super 7, and I bought the sort of line with that. So you get the sort of the gold Skeletor, the disco Skeletor, and but yeah. So I was, as a kid, I remember seeing Blade figure. My friend was like, "Oh, one of my friends has got the Dolph Lundgren He-Man." I was like, "Really?" Because he's lying through his teeth. So that was their kind of the next wave where they could try and sell some more toys, was to sort of adapt stuff on the movie. And there's adverts for it, there's commercials, you can see them, but I just don't. It just didn't quite gel with the kids, and obviously because kids want to see Orko, but you couldn't do that at the time.
They didn't have the money for Orko. Basically.
No, you couldn't.
That's why we have Gwildor.
We have Billy Barty. Yeah.
Well, we've got an interesting conversation going on YouTube between Cute Cult, who's kind of answered Immortal Rumus's question, which is very common amongst these films of this era. Being the 80s, Immortal Rumus says, was the reason most of Skeletor's henchmen were droids was because they wanted to cut down on the bloody violence for a PG rating. Exactly that.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Because Mattel said they didn't want any violence in the movie, didn't want He-Man killing people, so Gary Goddard, the
He-Man couldn't have a girlfriend.
Basically.
So many weird requests.
Yeah, and so they had to sort of formulate the idea, well, he has to kill loads of droids or robots. And then halfway into the movie, they're like, can you make it more violent, because they'll just, He-Man line was falling. So, it's a bit of a... I mean, I quite like the approach to this. I remember, interestingly, McG, the director of Terminator Salvation, he was in line to do a He-Man movie at one point. It's always kind of switched around, this kind of reboot. Maybe John Woo was going to do it. And McG loved the look and the direction they took with this movie. So that I thought that was quite interesting, that he thought that was kind of the right approach for He-Man. I think with the fan base probably disagree, but I liked the mix of the sort of hard sci-fi with the sort of the fantasy element of traditional He-Man. I think there's a nice blend you could make out of that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you look at it, the comics, the early He-Man comics that came with the toys, they were very much sort of this medieval fantasy wasteland with He-Man being a barbarian. They were very Conan-ish, and they didn't actually even feature the Prince Adam element. So it's kind of very true to the comics in that respect. But the sci-fi sort of the sci-fi fantasy elements were firmly planted in came from the cartoon universe. So it's kind of spanning a bit of cherry picking little bits, really.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Because the rights are so split. The cartoon wasn't owned by Mattel, was it? What was the studio that made the cartoon? There you go. Yeah. Filmation owned the cartoon parts. The toy line's owned by Mattel. And some of the character designs in the movie are owned by someone completely different. It's such a mess to try and put these things together. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, this was written by David Odell, who'd written, you watched last week, which was Supergirl. And he had written, before that, Dark Crystal. And I think the Dark Crystal, I think, is a very interesting sort of story and concept, but it's not a very deep story. The film itself, the TV series is obviously a lot more expanded and sort of, developed. But with He-Man, I think it's probably probably he's not his best script, but the one that sort of had the groundwork was kind of working better than comparison to Supergirl. I think Supergirl was crippled by the fact that Christopher Reeve went, "I'm not doing this," and they had to sort of change the script really quickly. With this, I think there's a sort of I think the idea of him going to Earth is a cheap move, but sort of cut back on money. But I think it's kind of I think they suppose they wanted that sort of for the audience to somewhat have be something relatable in a way. Yeah. But I don't know. I think
as well for kids of the era, seeing, oh my God, He-Man's coming to my town, because he comes to small town America, doesn't he? So
yeah, exactly.
He-Man could be here. But
this always scared me as a kid when Karg walks through the door. It's like, find them, tear them apart. Just like, when I was 6 years old. Quite creepy. Like, but then later on he's a bit of a coward. But
he's a bit of an odd one. But I think that shot might just have been reused from earlier.
Yeah, they flipped it, and also you can see the stormtrooper guy like trip over a rock. Look great.
Hypothetically, if this film was filmed entirely in the desert for peanuts, would it have called Eternia? Would it have been a better movie?
Probably not. Probably not, Dominic. I mean, it's like this is obviously they're shooting at Vasquez Rocks, which is like to sci-fi fans, like it's just like Star Trek used all the time, and Star Trek 5 would use again, like a couple of years later. But this is the grand piece of the movie. This is this is like the biggest soundstage like set ever built at the time. Like there's 2 sound stages together, and then like the corridor of it is going from one soundstage to another. And the production designer had designed it in levels. So later on, when you're supposed to have the big finale with Skeletor and He-Man, they fight on all these different layers, like different tiers of the of Grayskull, and it's all kind of designed like that. But they didn't make use of it. You can see all these steps and stuff. Also, it's expanded with matte paintings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I believe at the end when that fight scene happens, they were already disassembling the set. So that's why there's darkness a lot, to hide the fact that half of the set's being disassembled as they're filming.
But I tell you what's interesting here, I'm noticing it's just some of the style choices. I don't know why they've not used some of the artwork of the cartoons or the comics. If you notice, the doors of Grayskull have got in the center of them, there's like a big serpent, kind of like a dragon motif on there. And that's the same one He-Man's got on his sort of chest plate. It's the same motif as on the castle. If you look at the large doors there. I just noticed it's very much like but it looks almost like the Mortal... There you go, behind Skeletor now, almost like the Mortal Kombat dragon, the kind of look to it. But it's a bit strange why they wouldn't use maybe like the sort of the He-Man, sort of the H style symbol off the costume or something. Why they threw so much of that,
makes sense,
unless was it canon reusing any of this or planning to reuse any of this for another movie?
No, they wouldn't have reused anything in the making of this movie. I think maybe sort of the crossover, sort of Conan stuff, maybe the sort of I don't know, sort of not unintentionally, maybe. I mean, because Gary Goddard had directed a Conan like theatrical play thing, a performance thing they did earlier on, and I think he already had been involved with like the toy companies, so he seemed like the ideal guy to do this. Because once he finished He-Man, he went. I think he even missed a premiere. I think he was already working on Captain Power TV show, which is something I've been wanting to review at some point because it's quite an interesting show. Despite it being
it's an interesting show, Captain Power, because it had an incredibly high budget, but you can't see it on screen. I think when I looked into it before, it's like $1 million per episode, which for the time was
absolutely crazy, man. It's crazy.
My working theory behind the genericness, well, not the genericness, but the non-He-Man-ness of some of the props, it might have been, this is just head theory, headcanon right now, they had such problems in pre-production and production that maybe they were thinking, we might lose the He-Man rights. If we strip everything of He-Man, if we do, we can just cover it up and call it something else.
Well, I mean, that was what happened with He-Man too. Well,
exactly,
So they just repurposed stuff. So I would think like the bad guy in Cyborg is probably some of the outfit that Skeletor would wear. But the idea Albert Pune had for Masters of the Universe 2 was so batshit crazy, like
Skeletor like, being an oil salesman.
He talks about it. It's like this kind of big, like tower. He's like a big, like a Lex Luthor type character. I think of when he talks about it. All I'm thinking of is Portal Guys 3. That kind of big complex she's in. It's like He-Man's going to be in there. Weird. This bit here is I like this bit because there's they showed this on Bravo TV years ago in the 90s, and they even took the piss out of the movie when they advertised it. And it said something like "fantastic dialogue," and he goes, "Let her go," and he goes, "No," that's brilliant. Best way to advertise.
I do want to actually give this film some praise, but it's actually a biological thing because our Discord chat is saying it, and I'd feel remiss for not agreeing with them. Meg Foster here, her incredible eyes in this film.
Oh yeah.
But they're her natural eyes. Have you ever seen the film Blind Fury as well? Those piercing eyes she's got. She's as Evelyn.
She turns around in the beginning of the movie when she looks and she goes, "Grayskull's now owls," whatever. And I see, wow, she's a beautiful woman.
Frank Langella in this, he is one of the absolute joys of this film.
I also thought if they ever did a new Superman film and had Brainiac, it would have to be the voice of Frank Langella. Just go, if you like, just do Skeletor again, okay? Just do it again.
Yeah.
Add a bit of robotic kind of sound, like hum to it, a bit like Robocop or something. I don't know. And just, that would work. I mean, the weird thing about this movie, like, not a weird thing, but I mean, the photography. I mean, there's a complete shift. Like when it goes to Earth, it gets a bit flat.
Yeah.
And I think they're shooting that stuff a bit earlier on. And the director was saying to DP, like, we need to add more color. We need to make it a little bit more dynamic. Because when you get things like when they're in like what's his name? The guy who calls people slackers in Back to the Future.
Oh yeah. James Tolkien,
yeah. When he's in their apartment, and then they start looking at the cosmic key. It's very flat photography, very bland. And then they sort of boost it up. So when you see like Courtney Cox getting attacked in the sort of the junkyard sort of sequence where she's all caged in and stuff, and it's a really good sort of use of color. Very 80s, to be honest. Very Streets of Fire sort of look.
I've got to just say something now. Since this film clearly had budgetary problems, this bit with Gwildor in a minute where he blows his nose and all the water pours out his ears seems a really peculiar thing to leave in to pay for the effects for.
Well, when the water comes out of his jaw, it doesn't
come
out
of
his jaw. It's weird.
Yeah, but it just seems a really weird thing to actually line up and arrange the effects for that when obviously things were having to be hit with the budget.
Well, this is
it was already made.
The early stuff they shot. This was Dolph's first sequences, I think. The last stuff they shot was at the Vasquez Rocks with Dolph fighting the dudes. It's all shot with, as we saw earlier, with extreme close-ups. It's not a particularly good fight. It's not a good introduction to He-Man, I don't think. Apart from him, when you see him sort of turn around after Skeletor gives his big speech, There's always two props I'd want from this film. Obviously, the power sword, sword, which is amazing. Obviously, must weigh a ton. And the cosmic key. I mean, the cosmic key is like the coolest thing. I mean, just walking around with this giant like keyboard,
What I quite enjoy is that John Cipher in some of the scenes like there where he's talking to Gwildor has this look of what crap am I?
Yeah, why am I here?
Oh, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's in for. He's great in this. Chelsea Fields, she married Scott Bakula, didn't she? Quantum Leap Man. Yeah.
And she was in Commando?
Brief cameo. Yeah, she's the host, the one who says
he's dead tired.
Speaks to Arnold. He goes, yeah, don't disturb him. He's dead tired. Yeah.
That seems strange. A random cow would be wandering in the woods as well. It just seems.
I mean, don't the cows wander in the woods where you live? I mean, they're always around here. The many woods of Las Vegas.
I'm sure, I think Dolph said he was somewhat criticised for not being too big as He-Man. He seems a bit too lean.
He does seem.
I don't think so. I think he's pretty big in this movie, but also he's tall. So he's 6'4". You can't be. It's difficult to get even ginormous. So I think he's in good shape for this one. And
no, he's not. He's not in bad shape at all. But clearly, he's not Arnie. But Arnie couldn't.
Well, Arnie's
Mr. Universe. Yeah.
Well, Arnie had to tone down, didn't he, to play Conan because he couldn't.
Yeah, he had to drop some muscle.
Spin the sword.
Yeah.
Gives him nappy rash near his pecs. Oh, I'm so sore.
Is this a restaurant where they actually have guns?
Movie. We've got Courtney Cox working in a
chicken and rib restaurant.
Oh, what arcades they got back there? What have they got?
Oh, I can't. You can't really see what they are, unfortunately.
She had shooting irons on her hips. She's a waitress. Why?
It's part of their costume, but surely a themed restaurant like this, if the waitresses have to have. Oh, no. Is it actually a gun or not? Because I'd say that's sure they should ketchup and mustard they have to have.
Well, you can shoot them if they don't give you a tip.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, yeah.
Or threaten them, essentially, with a gun.
For the longest time, when I was younger, I used to think the waitress giving her advice was Linda Hamilton from Terminator.
Yeah, she does. Same
I can see it,
hair, yeah. This big hair.
Try to keep an eye out for that for those arcade cabinets now. Oh, darn.
She was just sorry. I've just noticed a continuity thing there. That chicken drumstick was whole when she hugged her, but she'd just been eating it a few seconds ago.
Oh, was it?
It's self-refilling chicken sticks. Don't you have that in the UK? No.
Years ago, when I was on the old forums and stuff, in the late 90s, there was talk of like there's a TV cut of Masters of the Universe. This is all a lie, by the way. I'm not telling you a lie, but what they said. They claimed a TV network had shown this cut of He-Man, and it had Dolph Lundgren as Prince Adam turning into He-Man.
I think I've heard of this, yeah.
And I was like, no way, because it's just like, I got to find this. Obviously, it never happens. It's not in the script. Obviously, there'd be far more evidence now if that was true, and the production stills. But yeah, it always kind of baffled me that he didn't turn into He-Man.
I guess in the context of the story, he didn't have any need to be Prince Adam.
Yeah, because I think with the concept of this movie is that it's playing up the idea that if you've seen the cartoon, you're watching a new episode essentially. So you're kind of going straight into it, like. You should know who He-Man is and what's been going on. So, because Skeletor is always, throughout the cartoon, always spending his time trying to get Grayskull, and now he finally has in the movie. It's had a whole grand redesign of Grayskull. It's kind of a weird, when you see Grayskull at the end, it's kind of full glorious. It's kind of weird. It's very weird, gothic kind of thing with this kind of bat wing top to it, and it's a bit messy, a bit overly designed. I think it should.
Some of it looks a bit like production,
big castle, shouldn't it?
Yeah, but it looks very much all the matte painting it is from a distance, unfortunately. If I was writing this, what I would have done to cover up some of the continuity with the kids and things is I would have had Orko at the start, not even be seen, just be seen to be captured, held in a glass chamber, stationary.
Yeah, you could have done that. Yeah.
And Skeletor evaporating. There you go, kids. Orko's gone.
Oh yeah, that'd have been great.
I love that bit at the end. We just like, it tasted good. Grilled. Like, I'm going.
Well, sit down, children. An old man's going to tell you a story now. Around this time, when I was a child, you could actually get ribs at KFC. They were very similar to that.
Oh.
I was always a bit miffed as a kid because Man at Arms never uses his sword. No. It's always there. It's like, no, use his sword. But no.
And he doesn't have his wrist blasters like in the cartoon that he would always
use.
He
doesn't. This has a kind of weird sort of shotgun, doesn't he, in this?
Well, they can't do damage to things or people.
Well, they said, I remember in the commentary that Gary Goddard provides, like they were shooting for so long in this pit, like the lights at the
graveyard they turned on.
Turn on, yeah. Sort of doing in cue.
Imagine how embarrassed you'd be if you were the one to have this boring gravestone and have a full-on gargoyle gravestone next to yours.
It's
a bit on placement, isn't it?
Well, actually, Ollie, if you remember, one of our friends told us about, and I looked it up, that very famous grave in the UK that the Traveller family have done with the solar-powered jukebox. There's a grave, and it's in the paper in the UK. I looked at it, and it's got a solar-powered jukebox that plays Elvis music 24 hours a day.
Oh my god, that's just mad, absolutely crazy.
I mean, can't wake the dead. Look at that giant, like, weeping angel gargoyle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the lights, they're turned on.
Yeah, it's getting a bit too dark now.
Yeah, I will say, even now as an adult, the plot of the stuff with her parents, it seems really bolted on and a bit strange. It's like, so they died in a plane crash, so she's leaving the area to rebuild her life. So she's ditching her
boyfriend as well, like,
and her life.
Fresh, Oh yeah, if I was her boyfriend, I'd be like, she goes, "Oh, I'm moving away." I'd be like, "Well, sod you then."
Yeah,
he's a right softy, isn't he? But, but I love that he just thinks this kind of cosmic key is this new kind of musical instrument. It's like, oh, it's from Japan,
It's one of those Japanese synthesizers. Yeah. It can't possibly be a weapon. Just playing around with it.
Now, Frank Langella would, he said the script wasn't particularly good, so he'd spend a lot of his time rewriting his own dialogue. And that's why, you know, he gets like all the scene stealers, really, because he's just, you know,
He's
absolutely
brilliant in this. That's the thing.
It's theatrical, you know. It's very over the top, and I love it. And as we all know, all the common trivia, if you're a He-Man fan or whatever, this is Frank's favorite role, you know, he's not ashamed to say that. You know?
He's owned.
Why should he be?
But he's owned it. But I mean, what's quite interesting here is, and this is something again it's referenced in the Canon documentary, is that they knew that unfortunately Dolph Lundgren was there not for his acting abilities, shall we say. No. They seem to give the heavy lifting acting to the other people to make it a bit easier on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's often with obviously action stars who don't really come from a background of acting, good directors will surround them, supporting cast of very good actors to sort of improve their performance. And in the case of Dolph, I think that there was something in his contract where he may be dubbed over. So obviously it's a bit of a, you know, also Sam Jones got dubbed over in Flash Gordon, and it can be a major issue for one's career. Dolph Lundgren, you know, after being Rocky IV, you know, for having a second movie, whatever, be dubbed is going to be a major blow. But they had a voice guy do his voice as a test, and it was really good. And but Dolph got it on the third go. He could try like 3 times, I think, with the ADR, and he got it. And they got to an acceptable level. They're like, yeah, okay, we're happy with this. So, you know, went on with it. But Dolph's English, or his kind of pronunciation, gets a lot better with each movie he did. And come like Universal Soldier, I think he's like the best thing in it. But actually, another interesting thing is deleted scenes wise. I mean, I've always looked into what's been cut from the film. We'll get to it at the end, but the ending's kind of cut down a little bit when they say goodbye to He-Man and so forth. But there's like additional scenes in the fight when he goes to save Courtney Cox. That's actually in the trailer. There's little extra bits and other bits of Skeletor sort of turning around and saying odd few bits of lines of dialogue. But I love the teaser to this movie because this is like a unique sequence they shoot with Dolph walking towards camera, this kind of blue light, and he pulls his like sword out and he's swinging it around. And I was like, oh, that is a cool little introduction.
It's, I mean, the thing we should probably also note about Dolph Lundgren, to be fair, while we are saying maybe he had some acting issues, the actual man himself is incredibly intelligent. He's actually got a lot of university education behind him.
Oh, he's got a master's degree.
Yeah, very, very intelligent man. It's just...
What was it? It kind of was engineering or something like that?
Engineering, I believe, yeah.
Mm.
And the theatre in Frank Langella just then, when all the 4 were being introduced, he just did a slight head shift for each one, and it was great. Kind of a drinking game, actually. How many times he just looks directly at the camera?
When he turns and swoops his cape, as it were. Loads of that. Dramatic turns.
I want to say as well, the makeup for Salrod is actually really quite good with the way the neck plates.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's annoying when they kill him off so early on because it's like a cool design. I suppose maybe the actor was like, "Oh, I'm getting too hot in this suit. Just kill me off."
Why is Big Ben in the background here?
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I don't.
It's a senior party, right?
Yeah.
It was the 80s. It was a different time. Kids liked Big Ben. They were mad for it. But
this is for old people. Oh, the film's for kids.
Yes. Beastman is one I do have problems with the makeup for. He looks generic Beastman.
Yeah, he doesn't really have. I mean, what else could you really add to him? You know, I mean, like the cartoon, he had a bit more. He had the body armor, doesn't he, in the film? See what else he has. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of just a big hairy dude, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love his like kind of overacting. They jump in through the hole. You know,
this is your moment. Act.
I also found it quite interesting that Blade is really kind of trap jaw in this.
Oh, with the piece here, yes, you know, as well. But he's a sword expert, so he would double for Langella in the fight at the end.
Oh, don't get me wrong, he's great in it. But I just find it interesting that they would purposely turn Trapjaw into that character.
Bit of blood coming up. Oosh. This is a good sequence here. I like this bit here. I mean, even on the soundtrack album as a whole, the music, as soon as they sort of jump through the hole, the portal, as it were, the music just sort of kicks in and plays throughout till He-Man defeats them. It's a great piece of music.
I'm also just realizing the weapons that Blade is using and the short guy with the bouffant hair. I can't remember his bloody name. Yeah. Like he has Sai, right? Like Raphael from Ninja Turtles.
Well, he's got like a Captain Hook thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I presume. I think he might. I'm not sure if he changes it, because I mean, quite interesting. If he did like change for different weapons,
Yeah.
I think that maybe the intent of his character, but they didn't really utilize it. It's cool. He spins the swords around and goes.
Yeah.
That is good. Because these swords are pretty much like He-Man's, aren't they? The same. It looks like the same blade.
They're very similar.
Yeah, I think that's why it's lighter to use. Have some water.
Isn't there a bit with Karg that's almost, like saying Captain Hook, it's almost pantomime. He's like, "Come here, my pretty." He does a line like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe he's doing pantomime at some point or something. I don't know. It's a bit...
Yeah, he's got this little fork thing, this adorable like miniature Sai.
Like his little mini cape as well.
Yeah.
Big furry cape.
But I reckon they were trying to emulate some kind of Ninja Turtles kind of vibe, at least in toy design.
Probably no. I don't think so. I think it was just like they've got to sort of come up with some new characters, and we also need to sell these as toys and just try and keep it on point with the universe of the movie, and not really perhaps the cartoon.
I
do like this bit where he cuts he must have had a lot of fun cutting that with his sword.
Yeah.
It was interesting coming up now. The fight scene's not too bad. It's okay for what it is. And then when Evil Lynn turns up with this device that sort of reveals what happened, sort of like shows you, this kind of weird holographic thing. It looks more exciting from what they show you. It's like, actually quite a cool fight.
It's actually got it's got like on the replay, it's got like a dial turns the excitement meter up or down.
Yeah. Because you see him like in the replaying the footage, he gets his sword and he just throws it. But in the film, you see him just do this, and then the sword just next to Karg's face. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Shouldn't it spun past the camera?
I'm also assuming that Eternia is an incredibly cold place with its ambient temperature, because at night, He-Man's running around in his underpants and his cape, and he's sweating profusely in most scenes.
He's always hot. He's always boiling.
Yeah. He's always sweaty.
He's He-Man. He doesn't get cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Love this bit. He grabs his sword and just like gets his blade and just cuts him through his stomach. It's like, it's a cool moment. All those sparks come off. As a kid, you're like, oh, that's really cool. Then you see it again, like come the 90s of Power Rangers. But, it was all the norm with He-Man.
I think one of the problems as growing up I've had with this film is there's a lot of He-Man shooting people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of want him to cut them up, doesn't he? Just cut them up to bits. Leave all the like the androids like RoboCop in RoboCop 2. It's like it'd be a bit disturbing for kids, I suppose. Judo chop.
Yeah.
Clumsy beast man.
Yeah, his sword fights.
I do have the feeling that one person here is the expert swordsman and the other's holding his sword where he's been told to.
Yeah. Dolph does a pretty good job, doesn't he? It's but the other guy's far more sort of like showy-offy, isn't he, with his technique. But so when you watch like the Star Wars prequel, when you watch the Star Wars prequels, they over egg it with like spinning the lightsaber way too much. I'm like, come on, you're not teenagers, get your ass in gear, let's fight. Retreat! Run away!
Yeah.
Bit Monty Python.
There are two of them with guns, and there are 4 of us with guns.
We're almost outnumbered.
It's got a bit of wood with a nail in it. Get out of here.
Our only weakness.
Yeah. Was it because in the Canon documentary Electric Boogaloo, where the production designer says Stallone visited the setting, he points to Dolph and goes, "You gave that guy lines."
He also, in some of his delivery, he does what I refer to as the Christian Bale school of delivery as Batman. He delivers lines like he's got a blocked nose or a cold sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's just the deepness of his voice. There's a couple of little like wobbly lines he delivers, but yeah. I mean, what was that? I think there's a bit coming up which is always makes me chuckle. I love
so many
bit,
neon signs in this movie.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? This is
we've got a really great question from Sharon in our community here, which is a question: how did this movie do at the box office? What was its competition, and how was it received by the audience at the time? From a marketing perspective, they called it the new Star Wars, didn't they?
The Star Wars of the 80s.
That's it.
Well, financially, it didn't perform very well. I think it underperformed. I think it made a little bit of a profit. I mean, it's cost $22 million. It was, I think, a staggered release as well. I think critically, yeah, it was kind of just like, oh, it's a kind of a Star Wars knockoff. Langella's performance was kind of like, oh yeah, it's very good, but I think it was just the idea of the concept of taking a kid's toy and putting it into a movie was just kind of laughable to them. I think a lot of the older critics were just like, what is this? This is a bit rubbish, basically. Yeah. It was kind of just harmless fun, I think, overall, but I think the fans were, the hardened fans were probably a bit miffed with its changes.
I remember as a kid, I wasn't a hardened He-Man fan, but as a child similar to the era, I was like, I want my Orko, I want my transformation. There is no Battle Cat.
I think to me, I as a kid, I kind of understood that some things would just kind of changed because it was turned into a movie. I didn't expect everything. I just kind of accepted it. As you get older, when you watch other things, like especially with the video game movies, where it came to things like Street Fighter or something like Super Mario Brothers, and when you think, oh my god, so what they've done, or they completely just creatively kind of changed things so much. It's so far from the original concept. It's no longer what it's supposed to be. I mean, I still love Street Fighter despite it being a bad movie. Again, in another film with a great villain performance by Raul Julia.
Oliver, you can speak a little bit about the film Street Fighter, as of course your new project you're working on is.
Yeah, my new documentary, Here Comes New Challenger. So yeah, that's all kind of celebrating Street Fighter 2 and the video games, the movie, the anime and cartoon and toys, everything like that, all kind of rolled into one thing. But yeah, so
I do use that Raul Julia line way too frequently in my life.
Which
for you, for you, that day was the worst day of your life, but for me, it was a Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, yeah. It's a meme. It's meme worthy, isn't it? So many lines in that movie. But James Holken again playing the same,
same guy
he plays throughout the '80s. Top Gun, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's just such a good line. It's just a simple line later on when they appear in the future. Well, not the future. They appear in Eternia. The stormtroopers turn around. He's just like, "Oh shit!" It's like, that was a great little moment,
So the question as well from Fraglord is, why weren't there more 80s cartoon movies? Because Transformers, the movie, didn't do great. Hasbro lost their bottle with the G.I. Joe movie, and it became a direct-to-video movie.
Yes, yeah.
Theatrical. I don't think they just translated very well.
We all know that kids' licenses and like comic books and stuff never do well at the box office, and they never will.
Because if you look at the time of this, right? Because all we had really, superheroes-wise, was Superman, but that was also diminishing returns by this point. And obviously there was Garbage Pail Kids?
Garbage Pail Kids, yeah.
Yeah, it was a terrible film.
Oh god, that horror movie, nightmare.
Howard the Duck was a massive failure. I see Batman really sort of brought it all back in '89.
Well, that was borderline 90 by the time for a lot of people.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it was for the UK anyway. It was like August '89.
Yeah.
But in America, it came out maybe a few months beforehand. So yeah, it's still an '80s movie, so you can cover that, but it's not. It's not sci-fi, is it?
It's fantasy.
But yeah, there's a bit of a risk, and no one was willing to take that risk, and it's for kids, and we're not going to do it. So I think you have to sort of He-Man, made the effort to do it first, and it kind of failed. But I think it sort of set the groundwork for other things. I mean, Ninja Turtles, prime example, come 1990. One of the most successful independent movies ever made at the time, and it showed it can be done.
It's much like video game movies now, or even like the last couple of decades of video game movies. They very infrequently are well received. Like the Tomb Raider, with Angelina Jolie at least, was very well received, but they only really made 2 of them. The second one, not so much. And the reboot.
Critically, the first Tomb Raider movie didn't do fair well with the critics, but it made money. Hence why they made a sequel. But I think really think about it, lads. Only Mortal Kombat did well.
It did
critically. I mean,
and the second one came out.
Yeah, if you look at Gene Siskel gave it a good review, which is baffling because you think you'd hate it, But yeah, there were more duds than success. But I think things like Detective Pikachu and Sonic had done well financially. But I think Pikachu did all right, obviously, critically as well.
We've actually got a question for you, Oliver, from Onzi in our chat, which is, do you think that, as he does, that Capcom totally ripped Drago and Dolph Lundgren's face to create Guile in Street Fighter 2?
Probably. There's a great there's a Japanese magazine I saw a couple of weeks ago, and it's literally, they've taken the front cover. The front cover's got Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV, and they've just literally added the comb, hair of Guile. And I was like, that is spot on. That is Guile. So yeah, I mean, Street Fighter, they influences a lot from the video game, borrows a lot from movies and pop culture. So that's why it kind of
Balrog's original name was M. Bison, right? Which is definitely based off of Mike Tyson.
They swapped it around. That's what they kind of the Western market. But
right, and going back to the film, I know they all failed. They all failed here, but why does Sauron get it when? All right, Beastman's a bootlicker, but I think Karg should have gone there himself.
You just prefer.
We forgot to mention, haven't we? Because Courtney Cox, the woman who plays her mother in Friends, also plays the sorceress.
Yep. Christina Pickles.
That's it. Yeah. She's getting older and older now, wouldn't she?
Yeah. And we do have another comment here I'm sure you'll like from David Mace over on Discord. He was always hoping for a Brave Star live-action film.
Oh, Brave Star, yes. I'd love to see that. That was so good. I love Brave Star's gun, which is basically what I suppose they'd reuse, they maybe borrowed later on in, Star-Lord has in Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's kind of the barrel bit here and a bit at the top, isn't there? Loved his gun. Yeah, loved that show. But because a lot of these kind of cartoon shows were so over the top, you think, how are they going to turn this into a movie? Transformers would seem impossible back in the 80s about computer effects. Mask maybe you could do. Maybe you have to do a lot of stop motion or go motion that transforms into sort of other things. Maybe you could do. I'd always want to see Visionaries. That's what I want to see.
Well, actually, Oliver, tonight I'm wearing a. I don't know if you can see my.
Oh, that is cool, Andrew. Well
Visionaries
done.
t-shirt.
Well done. Where did you get that?
I'll not name them, but I'll send you a private message where I got them from.
Secret people.
Yeah, that's right. And now we're going to see one of my favourite moments in the film: the improper use of a sink.
Oh yes.
Oh, what is he like?
They're using it as a bin.
Oh yeah, he uses a sink as a bin. What's wrong with you?
I just hate that because I can just imagine I've been to house parties where people have just used a sink as a bin before, and you're there going.
People use it as an ashtray.
Yeah, and you're just scraping everything out to clean the sink up.
You have a disposal, it's fine.
Who is this? Slacker! Puts the phone down.
Does he have handcuff tie pin?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he might do.
I never noticed that. Yeah, good observation. Yeah.
You realise right now there's a supercut to be made here of Lubick messing with the cosmic key, and a portal opens up, and you see through it. You see the DeLorean going.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you should have, like, the portal opens, and he cuts to Biff going, "What's going on here?" he's like, DeLorean, like, shoot off, you know.
There's that pizza sign again by the junkyard. Like, what?
Oh, yeah. Pizza. It's like they always have in films, don't they? Just like points to beer. Beer's this.
Yeah.
You know. Food.
And restrooms. Yeah, they're putting neon everywhere just to make an excuse for the colour, like you said.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. That's the way
I've only just noticed as well that, unfortunately, Blade isn't wearing trousers. He's wearing swimming trunks on his bottom half.
Really?
But he's got everything strapped to his legs.
So look at this. Look at that. Show the footage of like what's happened earlier. Look at that.
Oh, yes.
We're saying earlier
just wearing
about
Speedos.
Frank Langella's kind of makeup. I always thought, I may have said this when I reviewed it a while back, or maybe another commentary I did, but they should have painted around Frank Langella's eyes black.
Yeah.
And then given them yellow or some different like contact lenses. So you had and then maybe make the skull a little more like a bony kind of colour, and then you would have had something really kind of terrifying. But then it waved across the line of being like too scary for kids. So that's sort of, you know, you got that fine line of where you can push these things. But I think that's what I would have done. I've got an iPad.
That's right.
Look at it, it's like the size of a Neo Geo. Massive.
They're foiled by a microwave. I love it. Oh, yeah, the Neo Geo.
Did the chicken bucket launch out the microwave then? When the door came.
All he ever eats is chicken, isn't it? He must have horrendous wind. God.
Chicken and ribs. He's unable to eat
The
anything.
diet of champions.
He's unable to eat anything.
Don't use a toilet. I've
not on
blocked
a
it.
bone.
You know.
Yeah, he doesn't need any bowel movements because his body is 100% absorbing the nourishment. He has no waste. It's 100% effective. I dug it out of a grave.
You can come up with a better story than that, but at least he's being honest, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, I've just realised something on the Cosmic Key, 'cause it's all about music. Are they supposed to be tuning forks on the top of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Quite clever, isn't it? I think there's two props they made of that. I think Richard Edlund, who did the effects, was his company Boss Film. He has a power sword and he has, I think, a cosmic key. Bastard. I want him.
Okay, here we go. Oh, and
So
put the oranges in there.
that little flying thing they have, that's from the cartoon, isn't it? Or the comics or toys,
Yeah,
whatever.
there's similar things like that in the cartoon.
Design, yeah. Well, it's later on when they all get on it and they sort of take off. But everyone's got to stand like still. But if you take it off, you're like, "Whoa, this is a bit wobbly." I need some sort of bar to hold on to, you know, just in case they don't fall off. It's like the Death Star when they fire the beam.
That's right.
There's two guys that stand there with no railing. You'd be like, "God, dismiss me." You'd be like,
I do like this scene. This is a great scene with Evelyn, though, we're seeing now.
"Oh yeah."
With the
Another
collar.
sort of little bit of treble there, don't they, to her voice, you know, and she gets the collar, the collar of shame. The shame of was it? What do they call it?
The cone of shame.
The cone of shame. Yeah, it was the collar of shame, you know.
Or I let this bald man in his underpants have his way with you.
That guy's just aggressively destroying a box for no reason.
Do they even know what searching is? It's not destroying everything.
You can always find things a lot better when you trash the place.
That's right.
See, the guy who plays her father is a stuntman who works on the film. And also, he has a cameo in Back to the Future. Now, in Back to the Future, the guy who's driving the truck at the beginning, when Marty holds on to the back, he turns around and goes...
Oh, he's the guy driving the...
That's that guy. Yeah. Same universe, people.
There we go. The extended universe extends even further.
So, see, the effects in He-Man have stood up quite well because Boss Film used 65mm cameras for their effect shots, so you don't get much grain. It's a very high resolution image, and there isn't because at the time it was always essentially compared to Superman 4, which had over 600 effects shots needed, which is He-Man had far less than that. So it's kind of a lot more manageable. It's all under one company doing the visual effects, where Superman 4 had a huge number of companies doing effects, basically just farming it out to different people to save costs.
Well, I know on Superman 4, one way they cut down on the effect shot needed.
They'll repeat like 3 or 4 times, don't they?
That one scene,
towards camera.
Flying scene,
Yeah. Like get TV companies doing Superman 4 effects. Even the intro is done by a TV company because it's all see it in widescreen. It's all stretched. It's all supposed to be. It's done 4:3. Anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah, with this it's far more consistent. The visual effects are, and the miniatures are pretty good as well. I just love seeing what Boss Film was good at. I always liked in the sort of the optical days is the sort of beams of light and rotoscoping they add. Especially when He-Man pulls out his sword and says, "I have the power." It's just like massive beam of light. It's always bolts of lightning come off him. It's so cool.
I do love how the car sounds like an airplane taking off as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found it a bit generic that they would always have a hot pink Cadillac.
It's weird as little things. It's like a Master System bass converter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mega Drive. Yeah. Just put that on and there's like a big lever to it. We're going 16-bit, people. You know.
The Collar of Aldabod. What?
Is that what it's called?
I think that's what he said. Yeah, I probably misheard it. It sounded like Collar of Aldabod.
How many swords does... Oh, no, yeah, it's just the one sword that Man-at-Arms has, and then it's a weapon,
knives,
right?
Yeah, 2 knives, I think he's got.
Yes, this man has trust issues with you, Tila. That's going to really reassure him shooting his chair he's holding up at you rather than talking him down.
And nowadays, there's people turn up. They'd be like cosplayers. You'd be like, what? Are you sure? Yeah. You're not just come from some Comic-Con, you know?
It's not Halloween yet, guys.
Julie's saying they trashed the house. Look. They filled the sink with crap.
Yeah, they did that.
It's like Gordor's taken. I presume Gordor's kind of wearing Julie's kind of outfit.
Julie's mother's
sort of tacky clothes. Wears, I don't know, maybe.
Julie's dead grandmother's clothes. I don't know. It's a bit. It's weird, isn't it? Because some bits of it are really the production is quite good, and then I find the car takes me back to reality. It just really doesn't mash.
Is this the only music guy in the entire town? Why does everyone keep going to him?
Maybe it's like the only music store, isn't it? Really, he's still open.
Yeah.
But a lot of where they film, especially this part here, I think maybe when they sort of escape and went down a sort of side alley, that was all destroyed in an earthquake. So
Was it?
Maybe I think like 6 months later, I think maybe 3 months later, and they all was kind of like terrified. Like they all thought, wow, if we'd shot a bit later and used it, a lot of us could have been killed. He's rocking a major town, isn't he, man? He's proper leathery.
He's also still the only one that's glistening.
Oh yeah.
He-Man is always moist. Remember that.
What the hell is that? Oh, that's great. The He-Man's face. He pulls some funny face. Dolph does. He's a bit confused. Like he's like, he doesn't know what the guy's saying. Just remember the line.
Why's Gwildor been driving the car dressed like someone's grandmother still? I don't get that. It's
I miss music stores like that.
Yeah, there's always loads, growing up, stuff like this, Yeah, not much anymore.
God, Beastman.
And the guy playing Beastman, apparently he'd pass out quite a lot just for the heat exhaustion. Yeah.
Exactly. Alex Peacock says, any town, USA, where no one goes outside after the dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to the music store.
It's a curfew, It's lockdown. Okay. That's
exactly, yeah.
That goes there.
The problem is he's talking a lot of really pointless exposition right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have any context in any way.
Mm. So all we need, Kevin, is a Casio keyboard.
That's right.
Exactly. So we get this press demo on it.
So, it's missing a battery. Get one out the smoke alarm, Kevin. Could they not have ran out the back of the shop?
Well, they've got to sort of stand their ground, I suppose. Taking some of them out. I like this sort of like there's different like factions, isn't there, of the troops. I think there's like a sort of Imperial Guard ones. I like the capes.
I
suppose they didn't make any. They didn't make any of these as toys either, like the troops. Even like when they did a redesign, even when they re-released, well, not re-released, but sort of officially released stuff based on the movie or the William Stout's design. There was none of the troops, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah,
because they would have sold pretty well, I guess, because they look like stormtroopers essentially.
Maybe that's why they didn't.
Oh yeah,
maybe. But like because Ninja Turtles, you can buy like 2-pack of like the foot soldiers from the movie, and which I need to get. but they should do like a 2-pack of these kind of stormtroopers. I'm like, oh, fucking have those, Because like that was great, like a World War II sort of grenade.
Yeah, potato masher. They're called.
Boom.
It's I don't know. It's very. I know
it lacks scale, doesn't it? It's not particularly epic, is it? I mean, it's because it weird. Think about it. It's like they're having a He-Man's having a shootout in a music store. If he's told that to someone before they haven't seen the film, you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
It'd be like saying a Batman movie has a fight in like a Salvation Army or something.
Yeah.
Or like a Tesco's.
It's not even that.
Something.
It's not even like He-Man showing why he's He-Man in this. He's just bloke shooting things. Like Man-at-Arms is keeping up every shot with him. It's not like, it's even He-Man showing his prowess at fighting better and having to save Man-at-Arms in the fight.
Well, I suppose it's the thing, like knowing that He-Man is all-powerful, essentially, because it essentially destroys any sort of tension if he's going to be able to sort of do everything really easily. So they have these sort of moments here. But He-Man does, after this, he sort of goes off on his own to do stuff to sort of separate them so they don't get hurt. He's traveling on those sort of giant dinner plates, isn't he?
He just goes off for a good. Oh no, he goes off on the dinner plate, and then he goes off for a good whipping later, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's yeah. I agree.
I think this is where it sort of drags, doesn't it? Really, I think with this, it takes a bit too long to sort of get to ultimate conclusion of them escaping. The sort of music.
I also Billy Barty, and I know this is maybe a nitpick, but he's using the device, but he's clearly just randomly mashing on it. The actor is. I would have liked it to. I mean, it's going back to like a Star Trek thing where you see people doing things on where some of the notable actors have done it, where they've like on the control panels things, they're moving their hands in what appears to be a coherent manner. Him just going.
Well, it's like people on keyboards, isn't it? Where you see like they're typing away, but what you see on the graphic is this kind of like windows opening. You think, well, surely you use a mouse to do that, not like just pressing all the keys,
Yeah.
So Wildor is Hackerman.
Well, no, maybe it's a bit of nitpicking, but also maybe it's a bit of the direction could have helped it better. I was saying I'd like you to actually look like you're playing the musical
an instrument of some kind.
Oh, it's like Julie's like so gullible, isn't she now? Like this, like,
oh,
my mum's alive. Oh, yes. We were hiding, doing secret work. Oh, I missed you. And suddenly she's like, she gives her the key, and I love it with the transformation to Evil Lynn. She goes, "Thank you, my darling," and there's sort of the music and her voice is kind of adds kind of effect to it. It's really good, but it's kind of just.
It is a good bit. I mean,
just shows how stupid she is, Yeah. But I suppose it's just sort of like she's kind of so emotionally kind of broken. She just all she wants is her parents to be back, and she.
How long is it supposed to be since her parents died?
I think it's like I think it's only like a few months, maybe 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
I think they say. I think they mention it at the grave. Someone in the comments, may have sort of remembered.
Well, a few of the chat, I mean, Lizard Man and Sharon and a few of in the chat are saying this is the exact same ploy from Spaceballs, which came out before this.
Oh, really? I haven't seen Spaceballs in ages.
Yeah, where Darth Helmet pretends to be the king.
Oh, yeah.
I thought... No.
On Evil Lynn's power to close doors.
Yeah, door
lock them.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, this purple light is locking the door. Oh, I love this bit. Cheap edit.
I can't help but feel as well with Evil Lynn that her parents limited her career options with her naming somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not evil, am I?
Are we the baddies?
Yeah. There's difference of opinion, What albums they got there? Percy Faith? No Nick Kershaw. Damn.
No, I don't think so. I'm sure there's a lot of not licensed or very cheap stuff in there.
They got Grundig,
Yeah, Grundig. When used to actually be a brand.
Yeah, Grundig. Oh, my crap.
Was that Orange Crush in the trash can then? Trying to find all the product placement now.
Yeah.
I genuinely find the fact that they are leaping over the fire in those
flammable outfits.
Flammable jumpsuits to quite.
I feel sorry for Gwildor, He's particularly tall. But yeah, there isn't much product placements in this, which is quite surprising for Canon because they would have abused that. Like it's not like Superman 2, where they got like Marlboro fags everywhere,
Well,
Margot Kidder's like chain smoking, and you got like Coke sign gets destroyed.
I think this might have had a Pepsi product placement because there's been a few Pepsi.
Yeah, probably. Like, yes, it was. Yeah, it can. Yeah, I think it might have been a Burger King. I think.
Yeah, I saw Burger King. It was put in the garbage sink.
Oh, what do you move? Boom! This explosion blew out a lot of the windows down the street.
Yeah,
upset a lot of the neighbours, the locals.
I'll be fair. This is the most action I think he has in any of the films where he plays a cop.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
In this film, I mean, he very little in the Back to the Future.
He just fires a shotgun like once, doesn't he? In the first one, no, number 2. Sorry.
Number 2.
In alternative 85.
See, this, at least Evil Lynn there, it's more like an instrument, more calculated movements.
She gets it right, doesn't she?
Yeah, not Gwildor's random.
And actually, that was a kind of a quick, like, to open a doorway. You know what I mean? She does it really quickly. Like, maybe Skeletor's kind of from his end.
He's got a cut because there's 2 copies.
Yeah, he's got the beta version.
Yeah, he's
work in progress
beta
one.
Yeah.
But would it be like a bit iffy or something? Like you just open the wrong portal, you know?
Here we go. Got the Imperial Guards. When you get a promotion, you get an extra bit for your gun, and you get a cape.
Yep.
You get a cape. Oh, you can't turn down a cape, can you? You know.
Ever.
I wish capes are back in fashion.
There was an urban legend years ago, and sadly it wasn't true that Jeff Capes had retired and opened a cape shop called Jeff's Capes. Someone put it on Wikipedia for a while. I wish that was true.
See, that's a sort of edit you could do, and no one really bat an eyelid until they really go, really? You know, it's like. It becomes a sort of Darth Vader like sort of Imperial March, isn't it? Really,
it's a nice big prop as well. That's nice.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah,
spewing out steam underneath.
He's got the serpents as a sort of on his throne thing. That works really well.
He's got lots of
that reverse cam as well.
Yeah,
predicting future tech. Oh god, his turrets with skulls on them. I love it.
No, but actually, that is, to be fair, that is nearly Skeletor's logo out in the cartoon. The kind of almost Jolly Roger-esque.
And maybe if you saw this film, like open map, like 4x3, you might be able to see what's below that sort of hovering craft, you know.
Yeah.
The truck that's moving it.
The big truck putting it along, yeah.
Exactly. Cute cult over on Discord saying it's like mini Jabba's sail barge.
Yeah, pretty much. Centurions, fine.
Don't think of Highlanders 2. Don't think of Highlander 2.
I just wish these...
Highlander 2, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I just wish the effects for these flying
they?
guys looked that little bit better.
What then?
On the hoverboard things. Look just a little bit.
I mean, the design of them. They kind of look like something out of... Escape from LA, not LA, New York. You know.
Yeah, they do a bit. It's more. I'm more referring to with the effects. It's where I think the effects get a bit shonky on it because the scale seems to go a bit off on them.
Yeah,
a little bit. I think there's some good effects in the sequence here, especially when He-Man sort of pops out of nowhere and cuts them in half. You know, and destroys them on their thing. It's a really good shot. You see his sword here because he goes to the door. His sword comes off his back.
He lost it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing the He-Man game on the Commodore 64 based on the film. I really enjoyed it. There's a really good version for the Atari ST. Never came out on the Amiga, weirdly. But the Atari ST one is obviously got the better graphics. And yeah, it's pretty good. And actually, He-Man gets to use his power sword in it at the end when he fights Skeletor, which is really cool. He doesn't get to use it in the other ones, which is bizarre.
Also, when we saw He-Man flying, he was stood absolutely upright, and now he's struggling to stay on the thing.
God, yeah. If you're going like upwards and you're sort of leant back, maybe you got to strap your feet in, but it's still like it's gravity, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, it's He-Man shooting things.
Yeah, it's the avoiding any close combat, really.
Yeah,
and that can be seen as kind of overly violent.
What was that device called again? The grabulator or something?
Grappler.
Oh, well, that makes more sense.
Yeah. What they should have done to really... Well, Mattel said you can't have any blood. They should have made the robots scream when they died.
They probably said they can't scream.
It was like in The Simpsons, isn't it? With an itchy and scratchy lad takes the thing off. And he goes, "Oh, she didn't do that."
There's another good grunt.
Yeah, oh, yeah. When he shoots his arm, yeah.
What you do?
He's going pretty fast because his hair is just like completely like blown back.
Oh god, totally upside down. His hair's not moved an inch.
Yeah, yeah. Just flip the
no.
film. They're like, you know, this is cool. He pulls his sword out and then cuts it. In.
That's what we want more of.
Whack. Yeah, it's good. See, this is about they could have had some humor, like where they had like someone look out their window and see them walk past, and they're just like, "Oh, just another protest," you know, or something, you know. just throw in a quick line.
Or He-Man pull along someone driving along the road and go, "How's your night going?" or something, you know. That kind of thing.
Just a little quip, you know.
These Pizza Hut delivery guys, they mean it when they say they'll get there in 30 minutes or it's free.
Anything, just a little bit of levity might have helped. I like this scene though.
It's good because he's sneaking up behind them. They are completely unaware, and the audience are like, "Oh my god, what's going to happen?"
It's behind you.
This is apparently like Frank Langella's sort of first, I think, part of the shoot. So he's still trying to get his voice the right sort of tone. I think I recall him saying, but it's still pretty much spot on to what he does throughout the film. I think it was like,
I think that you can see he's not quite got his expressiveness down in the makeup compared to other parts of the film. He's it's just the mouth a bit.
Yeah. Oh, He-Man turns up. We're gonna get some more fantastic grunting, and he goes, what was it when he cuts? It goes to like a close up. He-Man's sort of cutting through him. He's like, huh, huh, huh. It's wonderful. But it has a great sort of musical cue, which they kind of recycle.
So how long is this road that he's chasing the guy down?
It's a damn long road.
Yeah.
Mad Matt, who's unfortunately not got a copy of the film today, saying everyone just went silent. The scene must have been epic. We just saw.
Yes.
No, I think nothing was happening. He-Man's face. Holy shit! He sees all these people. Oh, I was going to give her like a scabby leg.
That's right.
Yep.
Here we go, He-Man. Come on, unleash the grunts.
Oh.
I love the score here. Here you go, bit of karate kick. Yeah, that's good. He just pushes the dude over. It's like, piss off.
Yeah, but this is what you want to see. You want to see He-Man punching and kicking things.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see him cut through these dudes. Like
butter.
Mm-hmm. And it shows off his strength because they'll, go full on bundle, don't they? And they pile on top of him. He's out of breath though.
Normally, when I cut through swaths of hundreds of people, I'll lose my breath too. Admittedly,
summertime cutting through loads of midges.
He's oddly dry as well. He's not quite as glistening as he was previously.
Oh, you're going to get some real oily He-Man in a minute.
I presume, for each take, he's have a bunch of dumbbells put aside. It's like,
I don't want the people to die.
Yeah. This is our fight. Derpity-dur.
I love the fact the Blade's like, yes, I've got it. So
yeah. I've got his sword.
Excellent. The main character's sword, the protagonist's sword.
I've got his sword. Can I have some pants? Can I have some trousers now?
No, you need to rank up 3 or 4 more times before you can get some pants.
Let them rot.
I do have a suspicion, though, that shot was literally just
that's
the
repeat.
Shot. Reversed.
Yeah, they're reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, magic of filmmaking.
But you're right. You want to see someone like in the background in one of the windows being like a cigarette in hand, like the amateur theatre's getting really extreme these days.
Amateur dramatics, yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's some of the film's great, and then other bits of it just aren't.
Well, it has. I think it has sort of pacing issues.
Yeah.
It's sort of. I mean, it's just, edited by Annie Coates, who edited Lawrence of Arabia. So it's an absolute pro when it comes to editing. But I think that's down to what's being covered and what you should trim out in terms of story. I mean, it's difficult to sort of cut around stuff we don't have enough there to sort of get rid of.
Yeah.
That's going to affect the overall story. So.
Yeah, I remember as a kid really losing interest around the past 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, because it's focused on the human characters, so you're not there for. You're not there. You're not really there for them, and you're there for He-Man. And because the beauty of He-Man, he's a human basically, isn't he? They're all human characters who just live on a different planet. So there's no sort of worry that they are like in the case of Transformers, where again they sort of create human characters for them to interact with, which is bizarre because the Transformers speak English and they have personalities. It's not like Alien vs Predator where you can't really focus on the predator or the alien because they're just kind of like the monsters and they don't really have any sort of they're not there to communicate or tell a story. They're just there to attack or whatever. So you have to have interesting human elements. Well, obviously the AVP movies don't because that's what they fail at. But movies on their own do. They all have really good human characters. With this, they just make the flaw of just focusing on the people on Earth and not
the Earthlings. Yeah,
it's just weird. It's very weird.
Man-at-Arms sword, I've just noticed, kind of looks like the Master Sword from Zelda.
Does it? I can't
Yeah, it's got a similar handguard.
Oh, nice. We got Zelda ripped it off then.
Also, what I'm noticing here is, particularly in high definition, the Gwildor makeup doesn't hold. I mean, obviously on the big screen, yeah, but now with the HDI on it,
it's a little bit like rubbery, and he doesn't. There isn't much movement around his mouth. You know what I mean?
But the hair is clearly cheap synthetic hair they've used.
Oh yeah. It's all a little bit frizzy, isn't it? But because Billy Barty's such a good actor, his performance just comes through like Langella's through the makeup.
It's fortunate how the music to get them home to Eternia is based on some of the film score.
Yes, yeah, it all kind of was worked into it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love a bit of diegetic sound.
In the Spaceballs universe, they'd go and just get a copy of the soundtrack, wouldn't they, to get them home?
Yeah.
yeah. That always bugged me in Rocky 3 where they used the theme, like in Rocky. You know what I mean? That the band play the theme tune.
Gonna Fly
and
Now,
Ghostbusters 2, they have the single by Ray Park at the beginning. When the kids go, He-Man, they want He-Man instead. Which is kind of weird. It's weird, like, He-Man wasn't really popular by 89. It's like either Dan Aykroyd or Harold Ramis were completely out of touch what was popular with the kids.
They probably were when they wrote it. They were like, hey, kids, you like that He-Man, don't you?
He probably turned to Jason Martin. So is He-Man still popular? Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, whatever.
But I quite enjoyed, some of the people listening who love He-Man. The New Adventures of He-Man, I quite liked that as a kid. I had the toys. I watched the cartoon.
A fan for me.
Yeah, I mean, later on, I watched it when it first aired, and I kind of enjoyed it, but I've not really gone back to it. But I think some people had and sort of said, "Oh, there's some interesting stories to it." But I think it was such.
It might be. I think I probably never gave it a fair chance because, being that little bit older, I grew up with original He-Man. And it was like, and I was like, "Oh, it's a new series of He-Man," and I was like, "What is this crap? This is not He-Man."
Yeah. Well, I grew up on repeats of the original show, so it wasn't. I was like, it was playing in '83, wasn't it? In the UK, it was '83.
Yeah.
So I'd been like, what, 1 or 2, when it was properly first aired. So I caught them when it was on the Timmy Mallet show on ITV, in late 80s, early 90s. There's a picture of me when I was like 4 years old, I think, or 5 years old, with a He-Man jumper on. So I must have seen something around the
Strange
time.
enough, I never had any Masters of the Universe toys as a child.
Didn't you?
Oh, I did.
That boy. Now, Oliver, there's a story about that kid, isn't there, who just handed
Big boy.
Skeletors.
Yeah, there's a competition to be in the movie, and one kid won it, and he obviously I think they kind of forgot he had his competition, so had to quickly throw him in near the end of filming and just create this character called Pig Boy. And then the kid obviously now an adult now, but he's been to a couple of these conventions and been interviewed and talked about it, and I think his school and that, I think his year got to go see, or his
Class.
friends class, sorry, yeah, got to go to the sort of premiere or screening of it.
This is Sparta. Oh, sorry, wrong film.
I would have liked a little more exposition about the sorceress and the powers. A little.
Yeah. I was
But again, if it's just another episode of the show, the audience is supposed to know all this.
Yeah, but I think by this far in, you're realizing it's not your granddad's He-Man.
I've just realized the Power Rangers movie did the exact same philosophy. Like, they didn't explain any of the Power Rangers or Zordon or anything like that.
Oh, they did in poor effort. They did.
Yeah.
It's a very sloppy script for the Power Rangers movie.
They expected everyone to know it already.
They're also
Great soundtrack.
They're also referring to the sword by the wrong name, or a different name in this film. This is the Sword of Grayskull.
Yep.
It should be the Sword of Power, shouldn't it, for He-Man's sword?
Yeah. Mine now and forever. It's like, well, Power Rangers does the thing again at the beginning, has all the text to let the parents who are being dragged along to the movie by their kids who have terrible taste, and have to sort of read this text and go, oh right, okay, this is where we are. Maybe joking, about taste. Maybe I'm not.
Looks like a Stargate
I was too old
behind
for
them.
Power Rangers when it came out. Anyway, I was about a year or two too old.
Oh, that was my jam, Power Rangers, when I was a kid. That was peak Power Rangers age.
Different generational thing, isn't it? Like, if you're like 5 years younger or older, it's kind of like he goes past.
Oh, here we go. To you. Never kneel to you.
It almost sounds really harmless, doesn't it? Like unforgettable harm.
So He-Man's now being whipped by a bald man in his pants.
Yes.
There's kind of a bit of like, Skeletor's getting off on this, isn't he?
Evil Lynn definitely was.
The thing I'd say is He-Man.
She raised an eyebrow.
Well, don't you notice that last whip? He-Man kind of threw himself into the whipping. It was...
I got a bit of an itch. That's a spot.
Yeah, just 2 inches to the south, and there we go. Thanks. That was bugging me for ages.
Yeah, Lizard Man says no, nothing homoerotic about that torture scene at all, and Onzi says Skeletor to He-Man, no, I am your father.
It's weird what Skeletor says earlier on. He says like, "Yes, you will" twice.
Yeah.
Goes, yes, you will. Yes, you will. It's like, why did you? Don't need to have it twice, I don't think.
There is a version of He-Man. It may have been the 2000s version where Skeletor was his half-brother. He was Prince Adam's half-brother. Was it? Yeah, his uncle. That's right.
Skeletor's real... Right, so, putting on the He-Man lore, Skeletor's real name is Keldor, the brother of King Randor. He felt he should be king and sought to displace his brother by throwing acid on his face to kill him by throwing acid at him. It went onto his own face, and he made a deal with Hordak, who turned him into Skeletor. Basically, made him immortal to stop the acid from killing him. But it left him horrifically burned. That's right, Keldor, as Five Lords said.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's the thing. When you go back and watch these 80s cartoons, you also, as an adult, you kind of want a bit more backstory, a little bit more kind of like exposition on what's going on. And they don't deploy that because that's not what their job is. Their job is to sort of entertain children and essentially recycle the same plot over and over again. And I remember watching, I think I was talking to Andrew about this about a year ago, going back and watching some Thundercats. I was like, I want to know more about Mumra. And the show didn't really explore that. I was like, that's annoying. I have to go on a wiki and have a look and go, oh, right. But that's kind of stuff what a fan may have made up. So you don't know if it's true.
Yeah. It's interesting as you get on with some of the shows and how some of the backstories forgotten about in the various narratives. I mean, one of the most famous ones being Batman 66. They kind of gloss over the whole parents murdered in an alley and the tortured soul of it.
Yeah, none of that really explored. It's weird, isn't it? That's the thing in HD when you see Skeletor's makeup, like the nose piece, you can see this kind of like it's like a velvet sort of thing.
But
the mouth looks pretty good though.
Yeah, the cheekbones bit works well as well.
I've got to admit, in a minute, the Skeletor monologue we're going to see in a minute, Frank Langella must have been having the time of his life.
I love it. Absolutely love that bit of the movie. I adore it. It's so good.
He's just chewing every bit of scenery possible, delivering this.
Your master, it's great.
It wouldn't be a watch party if the villain didn't absorb.
So go on, Dom.
Yeah, if the villain didn't eat all of the scenery, it wouldn't be a watch party.
Yeah. Well, following on from Faye Dunaway.
With the Gary Goddard said it was kind of a lot of the Cosmic Marvel stuff inspiration for this. So it does go, full on comic book here, which is quite just, I think, really, for this movie. Staring
at the screen, take a drink.
I'm loving this. The big eye of harmony opens, and
again, it looks like a Stargate. Kurt Russell's about to bunch through.
I love this scene. He's loving delivering this.
I thought the sort of rotoscope, it's like stringy cheese, just like
And fair dues to him from an acting perspective, because this is such utter tosh that he's having to play it so straight.
Well, it just shows his complete arrogance and egotistical nature, isn't it? All in one little sequence here, where all he wants is power. He doesn't care about anyone else but himself. And and he just performs it so well. It's just like it is this kind of like Greek gods or something, Do
you know when he turns into Emperor Skeletor in a moment? It reminds me of that scene in Big Trouble in Little China, where the two of them have like the samurais in the posh suits of armor fighting in the dream world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Richard Edlund did the effects for Big Trouble. So it does a similar crossover with the style of the effect.
Yeah.
Egg Shen is best magician.
It's interesting that they obviously make his skull bit have like a skin. Maybe they should have maybe had Frank's normal face.
Yeah.
He had this kind of human face then.
One thing else I would have liked to have seen is in the torturing of He-Man. Skeletor, again, nitpicking maybe, but Skeletor would have known, it would have maybe worked better in the plot that he would have known He-Man wouldn't have worried about any physical pain on himself. That surely Skeletor would have manipulated and got He-Man to be coerced, and it would have proved him to be a better hero had he been inflicting pain on the innocent. Bringing an Eternian villager in or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, I suppose you need to sort of deploy that to get He-Man to do something, you know what I mean? Or to sort of give up something. But that's
what he's trying to do, to make him yield, Show He-Man isn't physically yielding from pain to himself, but show that Skeletor putting one finger on an innocent.
Yeah.
Or perhaps in his hubris, he believed he could overpower He-Man.
Possibly.
He wants him to kneel like General Zod,
Yeah.
Superman,
Half the car is there.
I love this bit. The half a car is great, isn't it? Holy shit! He just destroy them. I love the sorceress has turned into that smoker from Beetlejuice.
That's right. I do like.
It's like.
I do like James talking in a minute, but they kind of, him and Tila have kind of the same scene twice here, where they get shot at, and they both have the kind of, right, I'm going to shoot everything. He shoots a load of people with a shotgun, and she's like, woman at arms.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, Ollie, all this stuff was part of the main production. It's basically when we get to the very end battle was where kind of the skeleton.
So when they whack their swords together in a big beam of light, that was when it kind of cut off, and they come back and shot some sequences at night when everything was kind of closed down with a small crew to shoot the sword fight sequence, right, with all the lights kind of dimmed down. It's very kind of, it's not as epic as it should have been, which is supposed to have taken place on these like different tiers, and then they'd come back and they shoot some additional stuff at Boss Film where He-Man basically knocked Skeletor off into the big hole, and Gary Goddard paid for that out of his own money to get that finished.
It is a crying shame, like seeing, because the set is one of the best things in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yes, gorgeous.
And seeing that multi-tiered fight scene would have been.
It would have been great if they had the time to shoot all that.
Great,
I think they'd. I'm not sure if they actually kind of planned ahead. This is what it would be like. They choreographed it. I think they maybe sort of if they had the time, they would have thought it out. But yeah, it's all kind of cut short. But I like this moment here where He-Man gets to show his strength, where he just pushes the whole like statue down.
Does the cosmic key turn gold as well? Or is he just? They coloured it gold.
I don't think it's gold. I think.
Oh, that's his beta unit, isn't it?
I think it's reflecting off the
just off his
suit
outfit. Yeah.
I don't think they've repainted it.
Push that styrofoam. Do it.
Yeah. Very Conan moment.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Conan was the original inspiration for He-Man, wasn't he? And there was, I think, quite a few laws. No, wait, wasn't Mattel going to make a line of toys for Conan? And that's how He-Man came to be?
I think they were going to do a toy line for the film, weren't they?
That's right.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
And they had the molds and stuff.
He-Man, who looked like Conan.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like the only time we see He-Man do this in the film.
I love this bit. So good. Love the effect, love the music.
Oh, yes.
And,
Goosebumps.
And Dolph, in a very tone-deaf way, saying, I have the power. You know.
But his pose, it was perfect. His form.
He's a perfect pose, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's glorious.
These must be some Frank lines right here. The Shakespearean quality of all of them. And then Dolph with enough talk.
Yeah.
I ache to wipe you from my memory.
You bumbling boob. This is the greatest bit. Obviously now the actor playing Blade is obviously doubling now for Langella.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's all kind of backlit with this kind of like weird like the back's kind of spinning light they've got this.
Even though they've clearly turned the lights off to hide the set being destroyed, it's still a fairly well lit, dark fight scene. Like you can see what's going on.
Steals like it's the fight scene is just a bit like okay, it's kind of fine, but if we see it like production stills on a shoot, it does look quite cool, you know. And obviously, it's quite a cool effect when he cuts the blade, boom, all this stuff.
Yeah, it breaks the Havoc staff.
Yeah.
It's cool.
He goes from black and white, you know. It's kind of optical there. It's not great. Also, Skeletor's even got his own power sword, doesn't he? Because I think he pulls it out. It's like a double, isn't it?
Well, he's just got a sword in this. It's not explained as the double of the. Because the idea is the power sword is in two halves.
Isn't it? I thought it might be the sword that might just reuse Man at Arms prop sword, maybe.
That was a pretty good fall. Like, I've seen some bad
It's
falling
not
effects
RoboCop
like that.
Dick Jones's fall with the
Exactly.
long arm.
Yeah.
The arms.
Yeah. They're kind of just like that, you know. You just go. It's like I think it's a scale, isn't it? The lens they used makes his arms look too big.
Victory.
You know, what would have made that perfect would have been him just saying, "Now, what I could finish this off with a delicious, crisp, cool Pepsi Cola and just drink from the Pepsi."
Victory. He's acting very Stallone in this.
Yeah.
I love he's got his outfits all like shiny and gold now with a good polish.
Yeah, they buffed him up. Buffed his out. His
and Lubick staying here. Got me a wench. I got fresh hair.
Yeah.
It's like
got your key ring, Julie.
To eat for life. You know. Well, they got his stormtrooper. Oh, the Italian Guard have popped up.
Oh yeah.
Because they were barely. You just see him get arrested, don't you, at the beginning? Like a couple of dead dudes. So this sequence here was apparently a bit longer, and they cut it down, which annoyed the director because it made in a sort of preview cut, it made the audience cry. So, but yeah, they sort of reduced.
Well, one of the things in this is weird is we're not seeing any. And this is where the universe looks very small. There's no sort of King Randor, no Queen Marlena. There's none of the... Because the sorceress in this is almost shown to be the leader of the planet, when she isn't.
I do think Quildor's ribbons in his facial hair is well, I think it's a design choice that really should be brought into modern eras. I think men should start wearing ribbons in their beards.
I just think it's like everyone needs to be a bit made up for the finale. What can we do, Gordo? Yeah, put some Frere Rocher bows in his.
Yeah,
Frere Rocher bows. Yeah.
Hot glue.
Like the cosmic key had like a rotary dial. It's like got a dial 9. Oh my God's sake! Got 0. Oh, you know. I love Billy Barty in Willow.
Yeah,
he's just like follow the bird, and the bird just goes the wrong direction. He goes, ignore the bird. You know? It's gone back to the village. That was it.
Oh yes, Mad Matt says be sure to stick around for the end credits scene.
Yes.
Oh yes, yeah. Lining up a sequel. Never happened, sadly.
That nightgown, is she a Victorian woman from the 1800s?
Oh no, my sister wore a similar night in the 80s. Yeah, they were a thing.
Is that dinosaur thing she had? Like, is one of those
the
things you get in a magazine.
Every 2 months or something. You get
£5. You get a bone, and you got to put it all together. It costs you like £1 million, and you make this dinosaur that glows in the dark.
So her mum turns back into Evelyn again, does she?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a weird sort of nightmare sequence.
Look, we need to talk to you about Kevin. He's been putting crap in the sink.
Well, they die, so clearly her dad's a shit pilot.
Yeah.
It's a different property, though, isn't it? From we saw earlier.
Sorry?
The trees look different.
It's like it's a different house. That's her family home, yeah.
Yeah, but let's now say this film obviously can't subscribe to conventional time travel theory, because by this not happening means she wouldn't be involved in the events where Kevin and her would be involved to stop the cosmic key stuff from happening.
Magic.
Don't
Andrew.
ruin it,
Don't ruin the film. Don't spoil
Don't ruin
He-Man.
the film.
Okay, that's the one issue in the film.
Everybody, that was Masters of the Universe as we just go through the end credits here, waiting for this end scene. I want to thank Oliver for joining us. It's been a lot of fun having you with us today.
No problem, Andrew.
Watching this, it is a classic. I know we're taking the mickey out of it a bit, but you have to. It's a fun film, but everyone knows it's not the greatest film. But Pig Boy did get his own credit.
He didn't do. I mean, that's the beauty of He-Man. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure movie. Guilty pleasures are films you can just take the piss out of, and you do it in a sort of loving way.
Exactly.
Ideal casting,
faults,
Ideal casting for a modern version of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Who is your He-Man of choice, Oliver?
Oh God, put me on the spot now.
You have?
Oh God,
Because I can't think of anyone.
I can't.
Well, actually, Oliver,
all you need to do is just get a dude that's like, just buff him up and give him blonde hair, as long as he can act well. You know what I mean? Oh God, I can't think. Who could do it? What are people saying in the comments?
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's ask our comments. Who would you cast as He-Man? Chris Hemsworth, we've got from.
Yeah, there you go.
Obvious,
Chris Hemsworth can do
though?
it. But he's played. Yeah, it's a bit obvious, but then but then people do it all the time, don't they? I just
Dolph as King He-Man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dolph said like if he could have a cameo in a new He-Man movie, he would play Prince Adam's father.
Yeah, King Randor.
That'll be
yeah. That'd be fun.
Like a bit of an Aquaman sort of scenario where he's like he's an elderly figure.
But we've had a John Cena.
John Cena, that'd be good. That'd be so good, man. But it has to be. He couldn't play it straight, could he? He'd have to ham it up a bit. He'd have to be like taking the piss,
Yeah. We've got Alan Richson from Jack Reacher, Liev Schreiber. But I mean, one thing to quickly discuss, Ollie, as we're going through this, some of the plans for the proposed sequel to this, when they were, He-Man was due to be recast, wasn't he?
Yes, he's going to be like Alec Pune found an actor who's a bit like, I think he was like a surfer.
That's right.
I can't remember Jedward's name now, but he looked like He-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looked the part. But I'm not sure if he could act though. That's the problem. He got a surfer. Could he act as well as Dolph?
Well, I don't know. I mean, don't forget that Subatoy in Conan was actually played by a surfer.
Oh yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
he did a great. We got Sharon. All right, Sharon? Yeah, you want Jason Momoa? Is that purely for his acting abilities, or is it because Jason Momoa is easy on your eyes, Sharon?
Notoriously blonde as well.
Yes. There you go.
I mean, they could be quite lazy to get Henry Cavill. You know what I mean? He's played Witcher, dude. You know, he's had sword experience, I suppose. But it's always a kind of tough one with He-Man because you'd always seen so far judge upon is kind of Dolph Lundgren, who didn't really have much to do in terms of dialogue to sort of give He-Man more character. That's the problem, isn't it? He-Man doesn't really have much of a character in this, apart from just being a muscly kind of brute who can help, you can save people.
But we've got
in a very grunty way.
Timothy Chalamet as Prince Adam.
Oh yeah.
And our friend Gary over on YouTube is saying Peter Dinklage.
You could, okay, if you do like Peter Chalamet, whatever, or Chalamet, you'd essentially be doing something like Shazam, wouldn't you? Where you have something, or you could do it in a way where you cast a skinny guy who kind of looks like He-Man, shoot everything with him as Prince Adam, and then 6 months later come back and shoot him as He-Man where he's buffed up, and then when you do the transformation, which would be really cool, get him to do this Eye of the Power in this skinny form, lock the camera off, come back later on, film it, and then you sort of see him expand, as he gets bigger.
I'm just picturing Michael Cera in Arrested Development in the muscle suit, like.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, and as we saw, it said schedule saying,
"I'll be back."
Sadly,
in like the Terminator sort of way.
Sadly,
weirdly with the grading of the film, and when this came out on Blu-ray, like he comes out the wall, his face is all green. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like in the DVD, it's white, so I don't.
I don't know about that. And also, Frank Langella, sadly, you got in that bubbly water for no reason at all, I'm afraid, mate.
I know.
Unfortunately.
Street Fighter the movie does the same thing as a sort of end credit sequence where Bison is resurrected. Another film does the same thing.
Well, anyway, we're coming to the end of this fantastic watch party again. Thank you for joining us, Oliver. Quickly, can we just discuss your project you've got on, where people can go and check it out?
Yes, my documentary on Street Fighter 2, Here Comes a New Challenger. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at SF2doc. I provide sort of updates on the sort of Street Fighter related stuff. You'll get an opportunity to pre-order the documentary in the next coming months. So keep an eye on the social media. And you can also find out the trailer there as well. We've got a few kind of snippets from the documentary, of course. And yeah, it's coming along well. So he's doing an update soon for my backers. It's been a month.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. Once again, thank you, Dom. Thank you, Oliver. We will be back next week with the movie Creepshow 2 for In Search of Darkness. But until then, everyone, stay safe, take care, look after each other, and we'll see you in 7 days. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you then.